My name is former First Lieutenant Nikki Robinson Dela Cruz, and this is anonymous testimony number 3 regarding Leigh Baumbaugh. Again, these are not my words. I'm reading for someone else who will remain anonymous. Memorandum for to whom it may concern, from Technical Sergeant W. Subject: Witness and character reference letter for Senior Airman B. My name is Technical Sergeant W, and I was assigned to the 509th Contracting Squadron from September 2012 through November 2018. I personally know Senior Airman B and Lieutenant Colonel Leigh Baumbaugh very well as my co-worker and squadron commander, respectively. I would like to provide details of both of their characters from my perspective and some of the situations I have observed while assigned to the 509 Cons under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh. During Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh's command, I saw the most disgusting abuse of power, manipulation, favoritism, and humiliation towards airmen that I have ever personally witnessed in my Air Force career. There are several examples of the aforementioned that I can recall since she assumed command of the 509th Contracting Squadron in June 2017. First, I will begin with what I believe to be the start of her dislike and mistreatment of Senior Airman B. Sometime in 2018, we held a squadron potluck. By the end of the day, Senior Airman B approached me at my desk and asked to talk in private based on his trust in me as someone to provide advice and mentorship, and being the only other African American in the squadron, with the exception of the Superintendent, Senior Master Sergeant Brian Dubose, that he felt comfortable confiding in. He stated that when he left his desk and when he returned there was a plate of watermelon and a grape soda left there. He went on to explain that as he was going to the break room, Senior Airman Austin Carter asked, "How is the watermelon and grape soda?" I immediately understood the racist context and told him we were both going to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh first thing the next morning. We set up a meeting, and she asked him the details of the incident. He expressed to her exactly what he told me, and she interrupted. She appeared to be very upset and stated that this type of situation would not be tolerated in her squadron. She stated that she would contact legal, equal opportunity, and the IG offices to gather information on possible options to provide to Senior Airman B for him to decide what actions he would like to take. Meanwhile, he hadn't told her the full story yet, so he continues and finally tells her Senior Airman Carter's comments made to him as he was walking to the break room, and the point in which Senior Airman Jarrett Middleton began laughing when Senior Airman B returned to his desk to see the watermelon and grape soda. However, Senior Airman B made it clear that he was not sure who placed it on his desk. It seemed very odd that neither herself or the superintendent, Senior Master Sergeant Dubose, never spoke with any of the individuals that Senior Airman B named during the meeting with Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh, and no administrative action was taken, such as a documented counseling or an LOC issued. Instead, Senior Master Sergeant Dubose held 2 separate meetings among airmen and NCOs and kept mentioning bullying instead of what the incident really was, which was a racist stereotype. They later had EO, Equal Opportunity, come in to give a very general briefing of inappropriate comments in the workplace, which was at least a start to addressing the issue and was long overdue in a predominantly white squadron with a history of racist comments or racially charged discussion that I had to deal with myself or put a stop to. I believe this was the beginning of her targeting Senior Airman B due to this incident being a threat to Senior Airman Carter, whom she favored very much despite his multiple incidents that could have very well been grounds for involuntary separation under the leadership of any other commander. Next, I would like to discuss a few incidents involving Senior Airman Carter to provide an understanding of the unfair treatment dealt to Senior Airman B, in my opinion. Please note that I was not a first-hand witness to any phone calls or discussions related to the incident, but it's important to include these details because I truly believe there is a great deal of truth to this story, regardless of it coming in the form of gossip or hearsay. A few months after Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh assumed command of the 509th Cons, it was an incident in which Senior Airman Carter was supposedly dating an underage girl, which was made known by the girl's parents calling the squadron to notify the 509 Con's leadership. Senior Airman Carter was questioned about dating the girl, in which he denied. Later, once the girl was of age, she decided to move to Missouri to be with Senior Airman Carter, and they got married shortly after. I don't know the full details of the incident, and he may have received verbal counseling or an LOC at most for lying about the incident. But myself and several others in the squadron felt Senior Airman Carter was being shown obvious favoritism, and others were chastised and humiliated for far less offenses. The next incident involving Senior Airman Carter occurred around May 2018. I was filling in as interim superintendent during Senior Master Sergeant Dubos's deployment. I received a phone call from Security Forces Investigations Office after normal duty hours asking if I knew someone named Cameron Carter, which I responded, yes, it's one of our squadron members' spouses. The SF investigations agent asked me to come by his office to look at a video. When I got to the office, the agent showed me a Snapchat video under Cameron Carter's account. The video showed Austin Carter pulling down his pants and mooning some kids from his bedroom window, while his spouse recorded him, and it had a caption that said, "I feel sorry for those poor kids." SF Investigations and Legal made the decision to delegate disciplinary action down to Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh. SF Investigations explained to me directly that based on discussion with Legal, they both agreed that this incident could be pursued as a criminal offense for indecent exposure to a minor. However, Legal and SF Investigations decided that, in the best interest of the base, they did not want to alarm base housing residents by going door to door, trying to find out who the kids were and trying to confirm that these were minors, which they felt could really get a lot of attention. It's important to note that it did not appear that the kids saw Senior Airman Carter expose himself, and as explained to me by SF Investigations, was a major part of the reason they made that conclusion. This incident had the attention of not only Legal and SF Investigations, but the 509th Mission Support Group Commander, Colonel Callis, and I would assume the 509th Base Wing Commander. Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh asked me to bring Senior Airman Carter into the office for the issuance of his LOR. It was Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh, Senior Airman Carter, and myself standing in the office. I witnessed her show Senior Airman Carter the utmost respect and remained calm while she explained to him how disappointed she was with him and how she can't fight for him at the EFDP as she had planned in the next few weeks. During my time filling in as interim superintendent, I saw her humiliate airmen as often as a few times per week, making them break down into tears on a consistent basis, and it seemed that it was her purpose every time she felt disciplinary action was required or if she notified someone said something that she didn't like. But she treated Senior Airman Carter like someone she really cared about. It was a shock knowing that, after I explained before, airmen had committed far less offenses and were treated very harsh. She gave him some words of encouragement to move past the situation, and from that point, she continued to give him opportunities in his lap that were not given to other airmen in order to set him up for awards. I have never seen anything like it, and several other airmen in the unit can attest to the favoritism Senior Airman Carter receives. Another incident occurred during my time filling in as superintendent while Senior Master Sergeant Dubose was deployed. A1CF had some medical issues with his foot and wore a medical walking boot for a few months. I remember Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh talking to me quite a few times and making jokes about A1CF's medical issues because she felt it's in no way that stress fractures could cause enough pain to wear a walking boot. I expressed my opinion that I didn't think he was faking his medical issue and we should focus on the medical waiver. So one day she brought me into her office to tell me she called his PCM, his primary care, since she knew him personally. She expressed to his PCM that she felt he was faking his injury, and the PCM looked at his records to give his opinion, which he explained that it's not that bad. She asked me to bring A1CF into her office. Once he got into the office, she began to chastise him for what she thought was a fake injury. He tried explaining that it was on the recommendation of the specialist to wear a walking boot. She went on for at least 25 to 30 minutes, and he began crying after a while, and A1CF explained to her that his foot was in pain from standing. I asked if he wanted to take a seat, but she quickly interjected and made him stand the entire time. After the meeting, she asked me what did I think while she was laughing about the situation. I told her that I didn't get the impression that he was faking an injury or being untruthful. She gave me a look of disgust and walked away. There are several other incidents involving Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh's favoritism towards certain airmen, yet I do not want to make this about any other airman other than Senior Airman B. I only want to provide some sort of context and understanding to Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh's character and how she has abused her power to protect those she favors and aggressively attacks those with whom she has a personal issue. Another incident involved Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh and what appeared to be a conflict of interest. Sometime in late 2017 or early 2018, a contract requirement was created for the purpose of a contractor providing contract closeout services, which was never done before in the squadron, which I did not question. I will interject, from working in a contracting squadron myself, we've never needed that position ever for contract closeout. We always did that ourselves. Back to the letter. Once the contract was awarded and the contractor provided the individual that would be providing these services within the 509 cons for a 1-year period, then I had to validate the individual, Mrs. Jennifer Richardson, in JPAS as the unit security manager. As I talked to Mrs. Richardson and reviewed her information in JPAS, then I began to ask questions. I concluded that Mrs. Richardson worked for Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh during her command over the 319th contracting flight in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and JPAS showed them both PCSing in about June 2017 from Grand Forks. Interjecting, my own words, Nikki Robinson Dela Cruz, all that is true. She did work in the contracting flight in Grand Forks, and they did PCS at the same time, near the same time. Doing more research, I found that they lived together on Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh's property in Leighton, Missouri. In my opinion, this was a conflict of interest due to them residing with one another and Miss Richardson all of a sudden becoming a contracted employee for these services when they both came from Grand Forks. There are several incidents I could go on to discuss relating to Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh's unacceptable behavior as an airman and commander, but I don't want to lose sight of Senior Airman B and the exceptional airman he has become, despite the circumstances that no human being should have to endure from someone in a position of power. Finally, I would like to highlight Senior Airman B's character and work ethic. Senior Airman B has always been very humble since he came into the squadron, but has always stood out from his peers. He was the Airman Council's president, won 2 annual functional level awards, a quarterly award, and most recently the John Levito Award at Airman Leadership School. Big deal. Senior Airman B stood out to me mainly because he always displayed behaviors that his peers did not, such as starting late on a consistent basis as an airman, which I had rarely seen from any of his peers. He also wasn't afraid to approach leadership with new ideas to make the 509th cons better, and he looked forward to taking the lead without being told. His peers were always approaching him for advice, and he always made himself available to help those around him with their workload. Another thing that really stood out to me about Senior Airman B was his dedication to help any airman that struggled or failed PT test, as he did with several squadron members. I also observed Senior Airman B deal with adversity and champion, such as the current situation, and was always willing to forgive coworkers that made racist comments and jokes. His dedication to family and great faith in God has also had a lasting impression on myself and many others. Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh uses tactics of intimidation to influence civilian and military leadership alike to never go against her, which results in joining her battles with whoever she has a personal issue. Please take this situation very serious and understand that there's a reason Lieutenant Colonel Baumbaugh had an IG complaint against her during her time at Joint Base San Antonio. Interject, I also started an IG complaint against her at Grand Forks Air Force Base. And why she is on her second command as a squadron commander. Unfortunately, she has been given multiple chances to abuse her power, but I hope this brings truth to what's really going on at the 509th Cons and reveals how Senior Airman B, as well as several other airmen, have been mistreated. Please consider the details of this letter as very serious and urgent matter that needs attention immediately. And that is the last of the anonymous testimonies regarding Leigh Baumbaugh. I am former First Lieutenant NicqueMarina Robinson Dela Cruz, and I will be back with one more video regarding this case. Thank you.